Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Bitcoin update. Today we're going to be looking into a pretty interesting possibility, and a possibility I've discussed for quite a long period of time now. That is the possibility of Bitcoin doing something like it did in 2019, where it saw three major impulses upwards, and then it topped out and it went sideways and downwards and corrected for a very long period of time, over a year. Is Bitcoin possibly doing something like that? Again, I've discussed it in the past, actually. I've discussed the similarities between the move we saw over the last 6 months and the move we saw in 2018, 2019. And I've always said it's a possibility, but now it's really coming into fruition of it being a proper possibility. And if we lose 24.5K, that possibility becomes a reality. So I'm going to be looking into that. There's massive similarities there. And there's a similarity, particularly in regards to a downtrending line, that we need to be looking at. Very important video topic for that reason. I'm also going to briefly dive into what we need to be seeing for the weekly candle close coming up and next week's weekly candle close, and then brief dive into the short-term and monthly returns on Bitcoin, because September is generally quite a red month. So, but my main topic is really that 2019 similarity, because if we understand that there's a possibility we're following 2019, we can then get into Bitcoin and understand how we can leverage ourselves to take advantage of that and de-risk from that situation. So guys, without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay guys, so the charts we'll be looking into today are the Bitcoin daily chart, the hourly chart, which is showing signs of reversal, the 3-day chart. We're also going to be looking at the weekly chart on Bitcoin, which is a very important chart. Right now in 24 hours, we'll be seeing the weekly candle close, and that's very critical for Bitcoin. Unfortunately, we're not in the best position there. We're on the monthly chart as well, 12 days until the close. Again, very important. Monthly chart from a different perspective, and then the 4-year cycle chart, and finally, Bitcoin monthly returns. That's in no particular order, by the way. We'll be looking into all those charts. Without further ado, let's check out the Bitget Exchange and then get into the video. So Bitget Exchange got 5 times lower fees than Binance, and Binance is often referred to as the lowest exchange fees on the market. The best way you can help out yourself as a trader and the Wolves of Crypto YouTube channel is go ahead and sign up using my referral link to the Bitget Exchange. You'll get a 15% trading fee discount for life by using my sign up referral link, as well as exclusive discounts and rewards, etc., exclusive events in the future. So go ahead and sign up using my referral link and use that exchange there. I've used it for over a year and I've had no problems with it. All right, so let's get into it. I want to start on the 3-day chart because there's a possibility here that we could be repeating something. Let me just remove some of these lines here. We could be repeating something similar to what we saw in 2019, okay? So Bitcoin has a kind of trend here on 3-day. I'm going to delete all these random lines that aren't relevant just so we can get a clear kind of view of what's going on here. It has kind of, it's not really a 3-day trend, but it's definitely a trend that Bitcoin has in terms of it always forms these macro uptrending and downtrending lines on the logarithmic chart. Now, what you'll see is we have these yellow solid lines stemming upwards from bear market bottoms, okay? Bear market bottom 2012, just before the first halving, and we got 2015, we got 2018, and we got the one over here recently in 2023. We've had 4 of these lines here, these major uptrending macro logarithmic lines. Now, they hold for a long period of time, okay? We bounced off of it constantly over here and only lost it during the bear market, saw a resistance support flip, okay? So they become very, very strong. Historically, they have been, at least. And the same thing happened in this cycle over here. Lots of support coming from that line. And when we finally lost it back here in 2018, we saw resistance support flipped and lost it near the bottom. And then we came upwards again, broke above it. And even over here, it was acting as support and resistance. The fact of the matter is, these lines act for support and resistance for a long period of time. They're not something we just touch and then lose and then they just go away forever. No, we actually, they're very important to the Bitcoin structure. Even as late as 2018, which is very, very close to where we are now. We're in 2023. 2018 is not that long ago. In fact, it was 2019, so really not that long ago, especially in price terms as well. I mean, we weren't that much lower in price over here than we are over here, right? 15K between, the difference between 15K and over here at 5K, it's only 3x in price. It's not that big of a difference on a macro scale. But, even this line here in 2019, what did it do? Well, it went through the COVID drop, yes, and it found support during COVID. But if we extend it across in the exact same trajectory, we can see it actually marked the bottom here in this cycle. So these macro uptrending lines are extremely important for Bitcoin. They last a long time and they're effective for a long time. We test them for a long time. In the same way we have the macro uptrending lines, we have the dotted, I've made them dotted so it's easier to identify them and distinguish them, but the downtrending lines as well, right? Going back to previous cycles, we had this downtrending line, resistance, 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 right? Finally broke it to the upside over here. What do? We skyrocketed when we broke it to the upside, right? Bang, straight upwards, okay? And then we had, the same story over here in 2018. 2017, 2019, 2020. Okay, resistance, marked the major top on the bear market, marked the major top here, went upwards. Okay, after we broke it, we skyrocketed. We have the same story now, right? We have resistance. Yes, we got above it a few times, but overall it's still active as support. Resistance is still a very relevant line, and we've rejected from it just now once again and finally dropped below the major uptrending line. But that dotted line still remains as resistance. Okay, and this is what I'm getting into now. Okay, I think there's a solid chance that Bitcoin is repeating what we saw in 2019. And you might think, oh, I'm having deja vu right now. Wolf, haven't you said this before? Yes, I have said this before. I've said it before multiple times. In fact, I've been saying it for months. I've always said on this entire move upwards, there are strong similarities between 2019, okay, the 2019 bottom and the rally upwards, and this part of the cycle right here. Why have I said that? Well, first and foremost, right? Let's go ahead and clear the chart a little bit. We've seen three distinctive moves. We saw a rounding bottom, okay, a rounding bottom just like over here. Three distinctive moves, 1, 2, 3, okay, 1, 2, 3, three distinctive moves. Yes, we reached higher highs on all the moves. Yes, the last move was weak, but overall it was a higher high, okay? And we've also seen, in a similar fashion, the moving averages active in the same way. Now, this is obviously a result of price action, but generally speaking, they moved in the same way. How do we know that? Well, look what happened, right? We saw the 50 SMA, the red line, cross under the green line over here before the big drop. That big drop led to the rounding bottom, okay? We then saw the opposite, a golden cross, the green line cross over the red line, okay? And when did that occur? That occurred near the top, and that led to a lengthy correction downwards. We saw a correction for many, many months before the bull market started. We've seen the exact same pattern, guys. We saw, you know, a cross here. It led to the move downwards before the rounding bottom, okay? And then we saw the bull cross occur, the golden cross occur, right after, a little bit after the top on the local move, and that could lead to months of downside price action before, you know, when the halving occurs, and then we'll see the bull market really start to occur. There is a very strong possibility on Bitcoin that we are following 2019, okay? And if this possibility is true, if we are following 2019, that would mean that we shouldn't be getting overly bullish on the macro scale until we break the dotted line, because in 2019, breaking the dotted line is when we kicked off the bull market, okay? Now, that means what we can go ahead and do, and what I will continue to look at and what I will see as very, very prominent for Bitcoin over the next year, probably, is this dotted downtrending line. I'm going to extend it all the way across. And I will say that when we break this dotted line, it becomes likely that we see the kickoff to the actual major macro move. And until then, we will be probably consolidating and seeing correction. I mean, that's the speculation. That's what you could say based on this. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter if we're copying 2019 or not. And the fact of the matter is as well, you know, even if we are copying 2019, doing the same thing, similar thing, it's not going to be exactly the same, okay? Because this whole thing wasn't exactly the same. It has similarities. So it could be slightly different. But the main part we need to remember is that, okay, let's think logically here. When did the bull market start on Bitcoin? They started once we broke these lines, okay? Downtrending line here. Once we broke above it, resistance support flip on the line, upwards. Same exact thing over here. Broke above it, resistance support flip, upwards. That's exactly what's happened on 2 occasions, and so it very well could happen again. So I will be watching this downtrending dotted line on Bitcoin, not particularly on the 3-day chart. And the only reason I'm looking at 3 days because on the 3-day chart is where we saw the golden crosses and death crosses, which is quite important. But I'm going to be looking at that downtrending macro line, that dotted line, because when that breaks, that is likely when we'll see the big move to the upside, okay? That's when we're probably going to see the trigger. Until then, we're in kind of a downwards trend. We haven't actually formed the downwards trend yet, right? Because Bitcoin has not actually seen lower highs yet, lower highs and lower lows yet. We've still seen higher highs and higher lows. So we're still in an upwards trend technically. Yes, we've lost the major support line, but technically speaking, from a linguistic perspective, we're still in the upwards trend. Whether that will hold or not is up for question, and that's when we start to look into other charts. The weekly charts are pretty major importance right now. Unfortunately, it doesn't look great. And we have 24 hours. And what I've said before is that there are major lines in the weekly that we really do not want to lose. Some of those lines include the bull market support band. Okay, bull market support band is a moving average that we don't want to lose. It's between the 20-week SMA and the 21 EMA. And generally speaking, you know, you guys might know it from now if you watch Benjamin Cohen at all, if you watch my channel at all. This thing holds for support, leads to upwards trends. If it gets rejected from, we reject from it heavily, and we see strong downwards trends until we break it again. It's a very good macro trend indicator. When you're above it, you're going to be going upwards very rapidly, and it's very likely to hold. For example, the whole 3-year period in 2018 to 2015, we held this thing for support. Look, every single correction, in fact, this is the 2018 bull market, 2017 bull market was so easy because all you needed to do was look at the bull market support band and just see, oh yeah, support, bang, buy, 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 and it just held the whole way upwards for like 10 occurrences until it finally got lost. And then the bear market was so easy too, right? Because the same thing happened to the other side. Reject, sell, 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 sell. It was just such a ridiculously easy time to invest in Bitcoin. Unfortunately, things have got a lot more complicated now. But yeah, the fact of the matter is the history still remains. This thing's very important. And in 22 hours, it is likely that we'll be losing it. Now, obviously, we have a chance of getting back above it. We need to get above 27.8k to get back above it on the weekly candle close. That would be ideal. Perhaps 27.5k. It is moving downwards. Who knows? You know, somewhere in that region. We've got 24 hours to do that. Right now, we're at 26k. You know, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's very, very likely we do that, but I do think it's a possibility, right? We do have the hourly chart showing signs of reversal, right? Local bottom formation here, as well as uptrending lines in the RSI showing bullish divergence, multiple signals of being oversold in the short term, so perhaps we see a bounce, but look, it is a long shot to say that Bitcoin will rally that much in a very short period of time. It's just hard to say. Because the thing about reversal patterns like this is we don't have a clear time of when they're actually going to break out. We don't have an apex because it's not a market pattern. It's just a reversal pattern. So it's hard to say. But look, we do need to get above that eventually. The good news for us is we do have some leadway. As you can see, I'm just going to show you one occurrence, but there are many occurrences. We do generally sometimes see candle close fake outs above the bull market support band. We saw one over here as early as recent as April 2022, we saw 1 and 2 separate closes above it, and we didn't actually reverse the trend. We continued down. So they were fake outs, right? Because that was an evening star candlestick formation there with a doji candle in the middle back down. So there is a possibility, right, that we do close below it here, and then next week we go up above it. That's a possibility. It's not ideal. We want to get above it as soon as possible. We don't want to risk anything right now on Bitcoin. We've already lost so much macro structure. Gaussian channel is looking okay still because we're still holding the center line, and that's at 24.5k. 24.5k in itself is a major support on Bitcoin. And that's because that's where the kind of dividing aspect of the bear market to bull market range kind of thing is. Not to say we're in a bull market right now, but we're certainly in the same territory we were in during the bull market. So if we drop down below that, we lose the Gaussian channel and we lose the range. We go back in bear market mode. That's when we get really macro bearish. And that, guys, losing 24.5k on a weekly close, for example, or potentially even a couple dailies, right? We'll just have to look into it at a time, would be a very strong sign to just de-risk, just get out, you know, because that's not a good sign. You don't want to be dropping back into a range like that after this kind of formation. That's a double top. Dropping back into a range after a double top is not a good sign. You don't want to. So realistically, you know, as I've said many times, to hold 24.5k, critically important, but also need to get back above the bull market support band, you know, really as we can. Same goes with the 200-week SMA, the green line. Okay, and that's from roughly the same region. But again, we can see fake outs up above and below it. It's actually a bit more prone to fake outs as of recent. So, you know, realistically, we're in a race against the clock here to get back above these critical levels to avoid the permanent damage. Now, Bitcoin, unfortunately, has an indication on the RSI. I'll make this line pink so you can see it. Support line in the RSI that stems from June 2022, multiple retests on it. That shows us that we could actually go down a little bit further and test that support before going upwards. And, you know, that test would come at 24.5k. So realistically, it's not too bad if we go down that pink line again on RSI. The problem arises in the fact that we have another support line lower, which has been tested since 2015, okay, and it was tested as recently as 2022. If we lose that pink line, we could go and test this yellow line, okay, and that could lead to a drop on Bitcoin down a lot further than 24.5k. We're talking, you know, 18, something like that. So that would be lethal for Bitcoin. And we really don't want to see that pink RSI line drop. And if that does occur, if we do lose that pink line, it becomes very likely what I was talking about before, and that is it becomes very likely we see something like what we saw in 2019, in which we see an extensive correction. The good news for Bitcoin is this, okay? Although all this shit is going on the weekly, on the 3-day, whatever, and it's all kind of flipping a little bit bearish now, the good news is this. We are still in the 4-year cycle. The 4-year cycle is still valid, and the 4-year cycle doesn't say anything directly about what needs to happen in this part of the cycle. It's very important to note that, because we've only seen this part of the cycle 2 times, and in order to have a mathematical trend, you need to have 3 data points. We've only seen it twice. We don't have a mathematical trend here, so there's no real guideline. There's no strict pattern of what we're meant to be doing right now. So anything we do, technically speaking, is not abnormal. It just would be. It's a matter of favorable or unfavorable right now. Or unfavorable, I should say. So, you know, realistically, Bitcoin's not in danger of breaking its overall cyclical trend, but it is in danger of looking unfavorable, which could increase the likelihood of a cyclical trend breaking, if you understand what I mean. But us going down to something like 24k, or us even going down to 18k, wouldn't break the 4-year cycle. What would break the 4-year cycle is going down to 15k and dropping below it. That would break the 4-year cycle, because that would break the low, and therefore the entire market pattern trend would be gone. It would be completely off, because the whole 4-year cycle trend is based on bottoms and tops. That's what it's based on. And so breaking the bottom at this part in the cycle would be detrimental, and it would break the 4-year cycle completely. And that's when Bitcoin would get really in the dark. And that's going to be the dark days of crypto if that does occur. Now, unfortunately for Bitcoin, more bad news. September generally is a red month. Okay, out of the last 10 Septembers, we've seen, I think, well, look, we've seen 8 of them be red, and the last green one we had was 2016. Luckily for us, they're not generally super red. I mean, people like to think they are, but they're not. I mean, the average percentage downwards in September is like, what, 7 or 8%? So it's not actually that bad. You know, from current prices, what's that? Like the 1,500 downwards? You know, it's not that bad, you know, 1,600 maybe. So, you know, yes, September's a red. Generally don't see upwards price action in September, but they're not like lethal or anything. It's not like we're going to drop 30% in September. You know, that doesn't seem likely, especially after what we've seen. Monthly chart's also very important, but we've spoken about that a lot in the past. I'll bring it up again in the future. Basically, we need to get above 29.2k in the monthly. But that's a topic for another day, really, because it's 12 days away. Right now, what I'm looking at really is, you know, I'm looking at monthly chart, obviously, but we'll speak about it again in the future. I'm looking really at the weekly candle close, not only this week, but next week. I'm looking at the weekly RSI, and I'm looking at the potential for Bitcoin copying what it did in 2019. That's really what I'm looking at right now, because those are the big risks at this point in time. Daily chart, yeah, cool, but I don't really care. It's not really a risk. The macros at what's at risk. So looking at medium term isn't important, right? Because, yeah, we can look at medium term and see if there's any market patterns there that are relevant to us, but nothing's really forming on medium term and short term. What we need to be looking at is the macro structures, because it's the macro structures that matter. We're in a cyclical market. We need to look at macro structures. If we drop downwards like this, break below a major macro line, then we need to look at the macro structures and macro supports and macro resistances. That's what matters. So I hope I gave you a good insight of the potential for something like 2019 reoccurring. It is a possibility. We don't want to see it, right? We don't want to see lengthy downside price action. I mean, it lasted from June 2019 all the way through the downwards trend stopped in COVID, right? So it's hard to say when it actually went through to, but it took us to break the June 2019 high. It took us all the way to October 2020, right? In almost a year and a half. So if we're going to do something like that again, you know, we reached the high over here in July 2023. A year and a half would be the end of 2024. We break this high at 30k. Now, luckily, it's not really the same thing, because we saw COVID, and COVID delayed the market quite a bit. So realistically, we can say it's a year instead of a year and a half if we're just being vague, right? And we can say that, okay, by June next year, this high would have been broken, we'll go upwards. So by June next year, around this point, we'll break this downtrending line and go upwards. You could probably make that assumption. That's if we're following 2019. And that's not confirmed yet. So, you know, we'll keep an eye on it. And losing the weekly RSI pink line and losing 24.5k would be confirmation that we're following something like 2019. At this point, it's speculative, but it's very much worth noting. All right, guys. So I'll end the video there. Check out the Crypto Academy, become a trader course. If you want to learn how to trade, this is the place you can do it. You can learn how to chart up market patterns, trade coins, find coins to trade, market psychology, risk management, everything you need to know about trading is in this course. Check out the website, all the information is there. And if you want to trade on VIP, we've done excellent VIP trades recently. Just in the last 4 days, we had 2 trades. We had a trade on LTC reaching 190% profit within a day, and we had a trade on NIA, which reached a 290% profit within just like 6 hours, basically. So very strong trades in the last few days on VIP. 79% win rate for the entire course of the group's history, which is over 9 months. So 79% win rate in 9 months is great. 4 out of every 5 trades going to profit. That's excellent. If you're interested in VIP, you can check out all the details below, as well as the trading results. They're all in the information group. The Telegram information group I've got listed below. That's where you can find all the VIP information. Check it out. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.